Welcome to episode 22 of the Ikario podcast. Today we are talking about goal achievement. We're talking about an interesting mindset or mental component here where even the way you think about your goals in the first place can actually make a big difference to the chances, the likelihood of you achieving those goals. So we're presenting a framework here with 4 different levels, and I think you'll find this interesting and also practically useful for your own goals. You can go to the show notes of this episode, which are at ikario.com/022 for episode 22. And you can find a written reference there as well. And we've also put together just a simple PDF you can download. So if you want to have a written reference to these 4 levels of goal setting that we talk about in this episode, you can go to ikario.com/022 to download that. And of course, as always, we'd love to hear from you if you try this out and maybe gain some interesting insight, or if you have any questions about this, let us know. You can go to that show notes page. You can there find a link to leave a voice message. You can also leave a comment there or comment if you're watching on YouTube. We're always interested to hear people's feedback. So with that said, let's go straight into today's episode.
Welcome to the Ikario podcast, where we help you break free from the human zoo, optimize your life, and become a force to be reckoned with. Once again, with your hosts, Ollie. Did you miss me? I think it's only been one episode that I've not been there. I think Abby took my place last week. But you missed me so much that I thought I'd come back in just one episode and not keep you waiting.
Yeah, everybody's desperately been commenting, where's Ollie?
Just freakishly, just typing 100 miles an hour. But I'm back now as your host with the man himself.
And I'm Shane. Yes, welcome back. So today, let's talk about a way of thinking about goals and goal setting that has been really helpful for me. And this is also something that evolved out of discussions actually that I've had with some of our customers in Focus and Action and that we've had on the team. It's one of those things that I feel like out of a lot of discussing and exchanging ideas, this kind of framework arose. And I find this helpful. And it's just something I want to share because I think it can maybe help you think differently about your goals and about essentially a progression in how you even think about your goals and how you set your goals.
Pretty cool. I was looking at the notes you took down for this episode, and I just remember thinking, damn, I've never heard him talk about this. It's like just one of the golden nuggets from the vault of your mind that it's like, okay, well, I'm glad we're talking about this because it's something that I've actually, just reading through the notes kind of answered a question I had for a while. So yeah, let's get into it.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk through 4 levels of goals in terms of almost like you can ascend the ladder of how you think about your goals and how you set goals. And I think this is, so to give this a bit of context, obviously you have a way of thinking about your goals. You have, whether you've ever deliberately done this or not, I think every human being, you have goals, you have things that you're kind of striving for in some form or another. And you have ways in which you think about goals and how you think about your goals and how you think about the stories you tell yourself about what it means to achieve those goals, how, whether it's possible for you to achieve those goals and so on, can make a big difference to the results you end up getting. And well, the first level shows, if we think of the lowest level of goal is a having goal. So where you essentially, your goal is to have something that you currently don't have. And this is, I think, the type of goal that is fed to us the most. And what I'm talking about, so such a goal would be, I want to have $1 billion in my bank account. It's a having goal. I want to have it. I would like to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, $1 billion. That's nice, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously every material goal is like that. So I want to have lots of money. I want to live in a big house. I want to have a nice car, this kind of thing, right? But also I want to have lots of social media followers. That's also a having goal. Ooh, if only I had that Twitter account with 1 million followers. Ooh, the cloud, I want that. I want to have that, right? It's a having goal.
Yeah.
And the same would also be, I want to be famous. for example, and I want to be an influencer or a rock star or whatever, and I want to have the adoration of fans, right?
So that's still a having goal.
That's still a having goal, of course, because that's what you're thinking about, right? I want to have that.
Okay.
And even things like, I want to have a super hot girlfriend. What you're thinking is, I want to possess this thing. If only I had this thing, right?
Oh my God, that's true. I was just thinking in my head then, I've never had that goal. I totally had that goal. And that was one of the biggest realizations I had. I had a hot girlfriend for a while, and then I kind of realized, although I was lying to myself about it, that like it was kind of the thing that I always told myself that I needed to feel like I was attractive or desirable. It's like, I've got the hot girlfriend. But obviously it doesn't fulfill that. So that's totally a having goal.
And so, like I said, I think this is the lowest level of, this is the worst way to think about goals. In terms of your chances of actually reaching that. That's the worst way to think about it. But it's also the thing that we are spoon-fed all the time. Because if you think, for example, shout out to CoffeeZilla. If you watch CoffeeZilla, you encounter this a lot. And for anyone who's not familiar, CoffeeZilla is a YouTube channel that is all about scams. And mostly, I would say like 80 to 90% of them are get-rich-quick scams. Although that's not the only scam, that's one of the most common ones. Yeah. And he will look at, how do these scammers do it? How do these con men present themselves? How do they get new victims? And he will also tell the stories of those victims and so on, and sometimes also just make fun of them. And so if you watch CoffeeZilla and you watch how con men operate, having goals play a huge part in this. Is one of the typical marks of a con man is that they show you all the things they have, right? They're posing there with an expensive watch and stacks of cash and in front of an expensive car and so on and so forth. They're talking about how much money. It's like, oh, today I made $59,000 day trading and I'll show you how, It's always, I'm going to show you how to make loads of money easily, no strings attached. Right? It's not, I'm going to teach you some skill that's valuable or something like that. No. I'm just going to, the shortcut to, you want to be rich here, right? And so they use that a lot. They display themselves with all the stuff that you want to have, and that's how they hook in people and string them along and basically rob them in broad daylight, pretty much, right?
We're big fans of CoffeeZilla on this channel. And one of the things that's hilarious is how often these guys, there'll be loads of photos of them in front of cars, but there was one in particular where it was just countless photos of him just stood in front of cars, but he's not driving any of them. But he just to portray that, this is my car. It's like, it's not, mate. You've rented that.
Yeah. And, sometimes, every once in a while when one of their schemes pops, when the bubble pops, or they get into some kind of legal trouble or something, in the court proceedings, you will then find out what's really going on. And you will see that, there they suddenly say, oh, no, I don't own any of these cars. And, the rental on all these cars and all these Airbnb mansions and so on is this much. And that's my business expense and so on, right? It's like when they're standing in front of a judge, they're suddenly being honest about what's going on. And so it's just interesting, right? It's interesting to see that it's like, this is a base level wanting. And it is also, I don't mean to moralize here. I don't mean to say, oh, it's bad to want things. It's completely natural, right? It's like, if you think of the human as an animal, it's completely normal for a human animal to want signs of status and an attractive mate and all this kind of stuff. That's just, I do think that some of it is cultural, but also there's some underlying biological drive to this, which is, the cultural part is you want to be seen in an expensive suit. Well, in a different culture, you would want another thing that symbolizes status. It wouldn't be a suit, right? But it's still something there that you want because it would make you seem important and so on, right? So I'm not judging this, but why do I say that this is a low level goal? Well, one of the problems is that it's kind of this fantasy of just having arrived. Again, if you think $1 billion in the bank account just out of nowhere, I just want to have arrived there, and I want it to be no strings attached. And this kind of fantasizing about a goal does absolutely nothing to move you towards it. It's like no amount of imagining this will make me more likely to get to $1 billion.
Oh, fans of The Secret
And
are seething right now.
Yeah, that's true. So obviously, I'm not an advocate of that type of thing. So, but yeah, it's like, unless you believe in that kind of spiritual thing, which I think is easily disprovable, right? It's no amount of this kind of fantasizing is going to help you proceed towards the goal. And in fact, if you look at Gabriele Oettingen's work, she has done work on visualization and goal achievement and things like that. In fact, she has done work that shows, so studies that show that people who fantasize about the end state are actually less likely to achieve their goals than people who don't fantasize about the end state. And then there's various theories about why that is. But like experimentally, you can show that this is true. This is true. It makes you less likely to achieve your goal. But also, you can just think of it in terms of it doesn't give you any direction, right? If I just fantasize about how great it would be to have $1 billion, it doesn't give me any direction about, well, how do I do that? What do I do next? And that makes me vulnerable to someone who comes along and says, hey, there's a secret. There's a secret to making loads of money, instantly no work at all. Just give me like $2,000 or so. I'm going to tell you the secret. That makes me vulnerable to that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then also, if you think about the girlfriend example, right? Oh, I want to have a super hot girlfriend. I want to have a super hot girlfriend to be seen with. No strings attached, no problems. I don't want to have a relationship, right?
I don't want to have a human relationship.
Right? No. And again, that if I'm walking around looking for that trophy girlfriend, that makes it less likely that I'm gonna, actually find anything like that in my life, right?
I think that's fascinating.
So then let's talk about, well, what's the next thing, right? The next level up would be a being goal. So instead of the goal of having something, the goal of being something. And that is slightly different. So if you think about it, instead of thinking, I want to have $1 billion in my bank account, it's like, I want to be rich and successful. Okay. You see the difference there between I just have a thing versus I am a thing.
It's a little closer to your idea of yourself.
Yeah. Or also, instead of I want to have a girlfriend, I want to possess this other person, it's like I want to be highly attractive.
See, I can already see that the closer you get, it's like there's more power there. Mm-hmm. So having the thing, it's like it can come, but it can go. But that's up to circumstance a lot of the time, or chance, or luck, or whatever. But like being the thing, it's a little closer to home, a little closer to your power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And just there's something I wanted to clarify here. So yeah, these are 4 levels of goals, and we're assessing the worst goal versus the best goal in terms of how likely you are to actually achieve them.
Yeah,
that's how we we're measuring that. Cool. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, and actually another point in which I think as we ascend the ladder of goals, it gets better. It gets better for your mental health. And I think when we get through it, let's contrast like the lowest versus the highest level goal.
Good shout.
To see how this plays out. So just a couple more examples of being goals. Like I said, I want to be rich and successful. I want to be attractive. I want to be charismatic and sociable. I want to be intelligent, sophisticated, this kind of thing. But interestingly, a being goal can also be I want to be kind and I want to be a good person. Right? And so it's a pretty noble being goal. And one of basically, like you said, I think that the main thing is it's like if we think about, is this in my control? Is this in my power? A having goal is just out there. I just hope that something happens, that something good happens to me, right? And a being goal is still like, okay, but at least it's about me instead of something just happening to me.
Yeah.
But I can still be stuck in the same problem of I just wish I was more charismatic and attractive. And I fantasize about how great it would be to be more charismatic and attractive, but I'm still kind of stuck because maybe I have a fixed mindset about it. I just think, well, unfortunately, I'm not. I wasn't born with charisma genes or whatever. And so I'm just doomed to be who I am. So it can still keep me stuck. But I think it's a better way to think about your goals because it already contains a hint. It's basically you're one question away from, hold on, how do I become successful? How do I become charismatic? And that is the next level. That's a becoming goal.
So we have having, being, and now the third level, which is becoming.
Yes. So a becoming goal, this is what I would think of as an actually constructive goal, a way of thinking about goals that actually gives you a bit of a boost, okay? And here it would be it can be the same things I listed before. It could be, I want to become rich and successful. I want to become attractive, charismatic, interesting, intelligent. I want to become, and again, we have noble goals. I want to become kind. I want to become a better listener, and so on. The power in this is that just by thinking about this, it acknowledges two things. It acknowledges that I am here where I am right now, and I can become something else. I can change. There can be an evolution, a path of evolution from where I am to where I want to be. And the other two levels of goals, essentially, they don't contain that, right? It's like I say, I want to be liked by everyone, or too bad if people don't like me. If I say, if I'm thinking I want to be a better listener, I want to be more charismatic, I want to be more sociable, or I want to become these things, actually, I'm acknowledging, I'm starting from where I am, and I'm acknowledging that people aren't just going to like me out of the blue. Like there's something that happens that makes me either likable or not likable. And one of those things might be, am I charismatic? Am I a good listener? Am I kind to other people? And then I can say, well, I want to become these things. And as a side effect of becoming these things, I'm going to get the things that I want, right? And so a becoming goal, essentially, I think this is an important shift into, it becomes about action taking. Right? It becomes about, I want to go through the process that gets me from where I am to where I want to be.
I think that's the differentiator when you get above level 2. So level 1 and level 2, I want to have the thing, I want to be the thing. It's like, I want to be that now. Okay, sure. I want to have that now. Okay, sure. But a becoming goal then is acknowledging the process.
Yeah. And it's also, I think of this also as relating to maturity. So a having goal is the most immature form of goal. And it's essentially, the baby feels discomfort and just cries and has the expectation, rightfully so, that the world will provide, the world will basically respond, figure out what the problem is and fix it, right? And that's what the baby does, is just, it basically only communicates its state. It's like, I'm satisfied or I'm unsatisfied. And if I'm unsatisfied, the world had better do something about it.
You'll know about it.
Yeah. And that's again, when I say this is an immature goal, I don't necessarily mean that as a value judgment. It's like when you're a baby, you're immature. It'd be pretty weird if you weren't, right? Yeah. So I'm not meaning that in the sense of a judgment. It's like that's where we all start. But I think the problem is that if we don't mature as we grow up, if we stay in that baby mode, essentially, where I just go, well, I want to have money and an attractive girlfriend. And why don't I? It's unfair that I don't have this, right? And I'm just kind of indignant at the fact that the world hasn't delivered this yet. But this is again, it's immature and it's not useful. It's not going to work anymore, right? It's like you outgrow that pretty quickly. The stage where you can essentially just complain and then get the solution served to you.
It's totally true. It's totally true. I don't know. It's just hitting the right note for me. It is like an immature goal, because the clients I've had in the past, they're like, some of them have had having and being goals, and what's driven them to me is this indignation has run its course, and then it's led to this defeat. It's like, I've just been indignant at this. I should have had this. Everyone else has got this on Instagram or whatever. It's like this amount of tension and suffering, like, and sort of anger at the world eventually exhausts itself, and then they're like, shit. And then I have a video talking about, okay, this is why this happens. And, oh, for God's sake, okay, maybe I should start having a becoming goal. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the steps that we do when we work with people, is trying to level them up to this way of thinking even. So that is where I think mindset essentially matters. It's not just about, it's not just about pure execution. It's not just about you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's like often the starting point is how you even perceive the world and yourself, and things like how you even think about your goals. And yeah, like I said, I think even just upgrading to a becoming thinking. How do I become the things that are important to me? Or how do I become the things, even if it's how do I become the person who gets the things that I want? It's a better way, even if I just want a lot of money in my bank account, it's a more constructive, more useful way to think, well, how do I become a highly effective entrepreneur, for example, right? Or how do I become an invaluable employee in this company so that I can, rise up the career ladder? How do I become that thing? How do I become the person who gets the money, right? So again, without like judging it as shallow to say, it's materialistic to want money. There's nothing wrong with wanting money, but want money the right way so that you actually get it,
This makes a lot of sense, and it relates back to what you said about, the levels of goals in this way being related to how likely you are to achieve them. Because if you just you've got a having goal of I want this much money, but you're not seeing it in terms of, okay, well, what kind of person has that money? What do they do? What kind of person are they? And how do I become that? The having goal is just going to sit there, and you're less likely to take action on it.
Yeah, or the action you take on is maybe that you play the lottery or you gamble or something, right? It's kind of you're waiting for something to happen to you. You're waiting for something good to happen to you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work out generally. So that's the becoming goal. And this is something that I spent years and years of my life in this mode, with all focused on what kind of person do I want to become? So focused on character development, skill development. And it's only in the last, I don't know, maybe 3-ish years or so that I realized that there's something beyond that too. And that is a doing goal. So where the focus is not on achieving an end state of some kind, but the focus is what do you want to be doing with your life? So, for example, I want to build my skills. Or you can also think of it, I want to be building my skills. I want to be doing the activity that grows my skills. I want to be in the process of building a successful business. I want to be doing the work of building a successful business. Or I want to be working out. I want to work out. I want to exercise. I want to train my body. That's very different from I want to be ripped. I want to have huge muscles and a six-pack. Well, okay, good for you. But as long as, and this is also actually maybe the fitness goal is a great example of this, right? If I have a burning desire of, even if it's a becoming goal, where it's like, I want to become the guy who, when beach season comes around, I'm going to be strutting around with my glistening six-pack of abs, and turning heads. I want to be that guy. If I have a burning desire to be that guy, well, I can go crazy on some workout program, crash diet, and exercise like crazy. And then I get there, I hit the goal. Bam, I have a six-pack now. And I've absolutely starved myself for the last 3 months or something. But here I am. And now I'm strutting around on the beach and probably, it's, probably not quite as I fantasized, right? It's probably not like people flocking to me everywhere, right? So then maybe that's a bit anticlimactic, but it's like now I've arrived at my goal. What now? Well, I tell you one thing. At this point, I'm starving and I'm obsessed with food, right? Because for the last 3 months, I've just always been counting every raisin I eat, right? Tallying up the calories, right? So probably the next thing I want is I just want some pizza. and then you can see how the becoming goal, even the becoming goal can become self-defeating. Because that once you reach the thing, and as it turns out, it doesn't, completely revolutionize your life. It doesn't solve all your problems once you have the six-pack, right? So once you reach, now what? Now what? And because my goal was just to get here, I'm kind of relieved that I'm finally here and I binge on pizza, and before you know it, I'm back to where I was before. But if I have the goal of, I want to be working out, I want to be spending my time working out, lifting heavy weights, running, because that's enjoyable, because I like it. Well, now I don't have that problem of yo-yoing, in my fitness state, right? Because the becoming state can be like, I'm dissatisfied with my fitness level or my physique. So I do a bunch of work until I'm not dissatisfied anymore. Then I stop doing it because now I'm already here, right? And then my priorities change. And then my fitness level goes down again until I'm dissatisfied again. And I want to become fit again, and so on.
That's exactly how it goes. Yeah.
Been there, yeah.
And admittedly, I've not seen loads of these, but when you see a bodybuilder, like a real pro bodybuilder, been in the game for ages, talk about actual training, I mean, I think think it was Kai Green or something on one interview. He was talking about it, and the way he was talking about bodybuilding, it was almost like a spiritual thing for him. You know, he wasn't talking about he wasn't talking about in terms of I'm going to get the thing. It's more like, this is what I am. When I'm lifting, I'm commanding them to grow, and I have this connection to my body that's very deep. And you can tell that he's not just someone that's like, I want a six pack. It's like it's just it's internalized the activity into his being, and that's how he is. And you know, he is a person who's achieved loads of things, and he hasn't stopped.
Yeah,
because of this is a becoming goal and a doing goal.
It's a doing goal. You want to keep doing the thing. And also, like, another example. So, and I think this is essentially the highest level, or at least the highest level I've discovered of goals, because it does make you, even though in a way it's less goal oriented, right? It's less about like, there's the goalpost and I'm sprinting towards it. But it actually, in my experience, makes you the most effective goal achiever. Because let's go through some examples. So we did the fitness example, right? If you want to be rich, right? One of the ways to get rich is to build a business that makes a lot of money. Okay. If you think about it in terms of a doing goal, or even a combination between a coming and doing goal, it's like, I want to become a highly skilled entrepreneur. I want to become a good leader of my team and so on. And I want to be doing this work. I want to be developing my entrepreneurial skills. I want to be working with my team and cultivating a strong team culture and so on, right? If those are your goals, well, that makes you most likely to stick it through the tough bits. Because, as I'm sure everybody knows, right? If you listen to someone tell the story of how they built their business, it's always a story of overcoming obstacles and problems and difficulties and, you know, losing money for a while and just problems over problems over problems and overcoming that, and then eventually building something up. And in fact, you know, even then, even once a business takes off, even once you are successful, now you have problems of scale. Like, it never ends, right? It never ends. And if you're just trying to reach the thing, you're just trying to get lots of money in your bank account, it's much more likely that you're discouraged by those difficulties, by the hard times. Whereas if your goal is to become a better entrepreneur and to do the work of building your skills and building your team, then the hard times are just another opportunity to do that, right? The hard times are just another opportunity for you to hone your skills and learn more and become better. So you're much more likely to keep going. And then as a result, you end up with lots of money in your bank account, right? The thing that the having person is still fantasizing about and hasn't gotten any closer to yet. And final example, right? If you think about it in terms of social goals, you know, if you think about, I want to be well liked and I want to be charismatic and I want to have a beautiful partner, all this kind of stuff. It's also, if you, like, let's say you want to be seen as intelligent and sophisticated. Well, if that's your goal, even if it's kind of a becoming goal, if you think, well, I want other people to see me as, I want to become the person who other people admire because I'm so smart or something. It's like, that's almost certainly going to backfire. Because now, okay, maybe you're learning things and you start using complicated words whenever you can, or you try to shoehorn in some comment about, you know, whatever, metaphysics whenever you can, you know, because you want to be seen in a certain way, and people are probably just rolling their eyes, right?
It's like intellectual signaling. Any opportunity, crowbar in what you can into a conversation.
So, on the other hand, if you have a doing goal, if you think, well, I want to read interesting books, I want to learn new things, I want to keep stretching my mind, and I want to satisfy my curiosity about things, that's a doing goal. It's an ongoing process, right? Well, very likely that will turn you into a very interesting, intelligent person, and people will notice, but you won't be going around like desperately trying to demonstrate, oh, I'm so smart, you know? So that's also why, in a way, it's the most mature way of thinking about a goal, but it's also, I think in some ways, it's the only way to get the thing that at the lower levels you're fantasizing about in an authentic way, right? Because as long as you're grasping for, and you think about how do other people perceive me, and do I have this, and what's my bank balance, and this graspy behavior kind of blocks you from actually fully getting the thing that you want in a way.
There's something that just completely supports that. So, went to a house party before all COVID kicked off. And it was this house party hosted by this fella, and he just seemed to have this harem. It's like he hosted this party, but there was like every woman at the party kind of knew him, and he was like hugging him and really affectionate with all of them, etc. And then one of my friends just had to like take him to one side, and they had a conversation, and he was like, "Mate, you're killing it with the women. I've got to just be honest. What's going on?" And then the guy, he must have been in his mid-30s, is like, he's worked on this area of his life. And one of the things he said was, you just have to become it. You know, the confident guy that you told that you need to like say this when this happens, and then all these other tricks, like, that will not work. You just have to become it. And that's all I can say. And it's like, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And one more detail on this. So we have, like we said, we have having, being, becoming, doing. Those are the 4 levels. And in terms of how to think about and write about your goals, something that I started doing a long time ago at some point is essentially to swap I want to with I choose to. Okay. So for a becoming goal is that I choose to become the kind of person who XYZ, or I choose to become this and that. Or for a doing goal, it's like I choose to exercise and stay fit and healthy, or I choose to continually work on my leadership skills and so on, right? So to me, that's kind of a little an extra boost to how I think about goals. I've gotten into the habit of phrasing it as a choice, because I have a choice to continue working on these skills or continue doing this work. It's not just something I want, right? Because it's, again, I want puts it a bit at arm's length. It's like, I want to be doing the work. If only I could be doing the work, Unfortunately, here I am sitting on the couch doing nothing,
But I want to.
But I really want to. I sincerely want to. My heart's in the right place. Well, but if I say I choose to do this, and it's even present tense, right? So I'm telling myself I choose to do this thing. I choose to, do this skill development and so on, right? That for me, this is essentially how I've arrived at when it comes to thinking about my goals, but also writing about it. Whenever I write about my goals, that's how I phrase it. I try to put everything as a choice and as much as possible in terms of doing goals.
Makes sense. And I think that's also relates to the kind of language a lot of people use when it comes to working and whatever, where they say, I've got to, like I have to. It's like, I need to, but I've got to work today. It's like, all right, you've got to. So the way you're phrasing that and the way you're repeating that in your own mind, it's communicating the message to yourself that you have to do this. Someone's making you, you got a boot under your head, making you do this work. It's like, okay,
you're a victim essentially in a way.
Exactly. So if you switch it in the way you described, I choose to, or in positive psychology, they'd say, I get to. It's like, I'd like to, but I've got to have a call with my family later. You've got to have a call with your family. What about you get to? You get to have a call with your family. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
It's just the way the internal dialogue and what it communicates to us is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one more thing I want to get back to the mental health thing I mentioned earlier, right? If we think about having, being, becoming, doing goals. So I think that the lower levels, especially having goals, are like worst for your mental health, because you're constantly perceiving the gap between what you have and what you don't have. Because implicit in I want to have $1 billion in my bank account is I don't have $1 billion in my bank account. And then I'm making my happiness or my satisfaction dependent on something that is not only not present, but it's also outside of my control. That's the worst state to be in, right? That's essentially a state of disappointed entitlement. It's like I wish I had all these things that I don't have. And you're living in lack, essentially. And then as you ascend up the levels, you put things more in your control, because at the point where you have becoming goals, you're taking responsibility. You say, I want to, or I choose to become this kind of thing. So clearly there's actions I can take to become that. So that puts it within my locus of control, within the kind of circle of things I can actually change. And a doing goal most of all, because a doing goal removes the lack. If I say, I choose to work on my entrepreneurial skills and cultivate a strong team, well, I can do that right now. And I'm doing that every day. And in a way, I'm achieving my goal every day by doing the thing. So, and similarly, I want to, or I choose to be someone who works out and stays fit and healthy because I enjoy exercise and I take care of myself and it's an act of self-love. Well, every time I exercise, I am doing that. Every time I exercise, I've achieved the goal in a way. And so that puts me in a state of, I'm not sure, abundance isn't necessarily the right word, but I'm not living in lack. I'm not constantly behind, I'm not constantly like there's this distant goal where I'd rather be. And I imagine that then I'd be happy and so on. No, it's like, I'm doing it right now. I'm doing the thing I want to be doing. And for me also, I have to say, like, one of the ways I discovered this is basically because I reached especially my financial and my freedom goals. So for a long time, that was very much what drove me. It's like I wanted to have enough money to never have to worry about money, and I wanted to have freedom. But then I got to the point where I had that. And for many years, some people who listen to this probably know, right? I lived as a digital nomad for many years. So I was basically traveling and I was just living wherever I wanted to in the world, which is an amazing kind of freedom. And I got to that point also financially where I basically, for me, the biggest triumph is I don't know what groceries cost anymore. If someone says, oh, you had mushroom stew, aren't mushrooms expensive? I don't know. I don't look at the labels of foods. And to me, that was like the biggest milestone. I hated having to penny pinch in the grocery store, And so for me, that's like the freedom that I had dreamed of had been achieved at that point. When I'm living as a digital nomad, even when I was living relatively humbly, I wasn't like jet setting and living in mansions and stuff like that. But I had location freedom. I had quite a lot of time freedom, and I didn't have to look at the price label in the grocery store. For me, that's like, okay, goal achieved. And that was also then something that showed me, hold on, what now in a way? Because I wasn't motivated to just want more money. Of course, you can always move the goalpost, right? You can say, okay, well, I have $1 million now, I want 2 million. I have 2 million now, I want 10 million, whatever. You can keep doing that forever.
Yeah.
But clearly that's futile. And so that is something that, one of the things that showed me, like, by having achieved some of those goals that I put so much hope into, where it's like, once I have that, everything is going to be great. By actually getting there and then saying, oh, okay, well, this is nice, it's definitely great to have this, but it's not like, it's not like you reach the end and now you're showered in champagne and that's, you're done. You've won at life, right?
What even happened then?
Yeah, exactly. So then the question of, okay, well, now what, is something that led me to the doing goals, where I realized that this is where kind of a deeper satisfaction, a deeper sense of purpose comes from. Or in other words, like once you have everything you wanted, the question is what you want to spend your time doing, right? You have a limited amount of time on earth. What do you want to spend your time doing? And I think the sooner you can switch into that mode of thinking, the sooner you can essentially live a rich man's life.
And I think some people do that. Some people, rather than be on the treadmill, the hamster wheel of having goals, a lot of people ask themselves, well, what do I want to be doing? It's like people who, I don't know, they travel the world in like a camper van and they just skateboard everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't have having goals. Maybe a couple, but they're not driven by this desire to have this thing. It's more like, what do I want to spend my time doing? Mm-hmm. I like skating, I like traveling. I'm embodying my values now.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in my behavior. And it relates to what you said about the mental health thing. As much as your actions don't align with what you value, in the gap, you'll struggle.
Yeah, that's where you'll be suffering, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's that. 4 levels of goals. We'll put notes about this in the show notes of the episode too. If maybe we'll I don't know, maybe we'll put it on a PDF or something to download as a reference. But yeah, that's this idea, and I'd be really interested to know where you see yourself standing, on those 4 levels, and yeah, spend some time seeing what it feels like to ascend those levels if you're currently not on the 4th level. See how it changes how you think about your goals and possibly also how you take action. So I'd love for you to experiment with that and maybe leave a comment or a voice message to let us know how how it goes for you.
Definitely a voice note. We love those.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys. See you next time.